Hey guys, this is Light, and it is time once again for a tier list. Because the preseason is ending in less than a week, and there have been absolutely no changes to RTA. Ban protection is still there, the rules are the same. The only thing new is the addition of Little Senya. So yeah, let's get into it. So for those of you who haven't watched any of these tier list videos before, I'll explain the tiers real quick. So I have a very high priority on pickability of a unit to rank them. So for my S plus tier, these are the units that are like the most broken units in the game, and they are all worthy of being first pick. And then we have the S tier. These are neutral picks that have very little weaknesses, and you want to pick them alongside the S plus tier. And then we have the common situational picks. So these are the picks that you're gonna pick later on in the draft to counter pick the other person. And then we have A minus tier. So this tier is basically the same as A tier, but these units will be picked much less often to give you an idea of what units to prioritize for RTA when you're building units. And then for B tier, this is basically the graveyard of units that I don't think these units are viable in RTA, and I don't believe people should be using their resources to build these units. Like I know you can make these units work in like very rare situations, but it's not worth it. And then we have the cleave tier. So I believe there's no point ranking cleave units, because if cleave is strong, then the units are strong. Like cleave as a playstyle, if it's strong, the units are strong. So yeah, we're not gonna waste time ranking any cleave units above each other. So yeah, let's get into it. So first we have our S plus tier. So these units are the most broken units in the game. Let's start with Emo Luna. So this unit is still insane. She's super good for cleave, super good for aggressive play, very annoying in standard play because she could be built slow and tanky to troll cleansers. Definitely super strong unit. And then we have Emo Polly. She is still one of the best aggro enablers in the game. Sorry, probably the best, second to Luna. Like there's nothing really else like her. Like she makes your team faster, she makes the other person slower, she cuts their resources, and she dual attacks with the highest attack unit for super high tempo and lots of damage. So yeah, she is still top tier. And we have ML Ilanev. Unfortunately, even though like Hwayoung is a thing, I still think Ilanev is extremely strong as an early pick, just because she enables really powerful units like Emma Haste, Laya, and Janua. Because yes, Hwayoung can one-shot her, but Hwayoung is also weak to Laya, Haste, and Janua, so it's not that bad for Ilanev. So yeah, Ilanev, despite Hwayoung's existence, I still believe this unit can be very strong. And then we have Emo at limited plan, hands down, best damage dealer in the game, good in every single playstyle, especially broken in cleave and aggro. Her damage, you cannot tank out her damage as a slower player. She is just a complete menace, and Archdemon doesn't really do anything to her because people are just going to change their flan builds to be on immunity. So yeah, insanely strong, lots of different builds, 100% evasion makes her like the safest damage dealer in the game. So yeah, very broken unit. And then we have Death Dealer Ray. Honestly, it is a darn shame that I'm ranking DDR so highly, but unfortunately, Chenille does not counter him enough. Like, she is so strong, in like very tanky drafts, because people pick DDR to deny DDR, and then they pick super tanky units with him. For example, there's a trending young Senya draft where you first pick DDR just to deny him, and it's really toxic. And like he's just a good unit. Like he can heal with Guardian Crystals. He has like 3 or 4 different builds that you can abuse to fit your playstyle. Like this unit is just too strong. And Schneel doesn't hold a candle to him, because there are many ways to counterplay Schneel. So yeah, DDR still top tier unit. Best tank killer in the game. But also he's very anti-aggro. His debuffs are very strong. He can heal. Yeah, he's just so good. Literally nothing bad about him. And yeah, that is the S+ tier. So now we have the S tier. So strong neutral pick units. They have very minimal counters, and you want to pick them anywhere from 1 to 3 in your draft. And this is going to be a little controversial, but Hwa-Young is an RTA unit. Like, she's insanely tanky, she does not get debuffed, and she does a lot of damage to light units. Like, Hwa-Young's existence makes it so that you can't really pick units like LRK and A Tywin early anymore. You can't really pick C-Armin either. Like, she's gonna one-tap these units. Like, Hwa-Young is definitely a menace. And she has very little weaknesses too. Like, what, she's weak to BBK, and she's weak to Janua. She's kind of weak to Laya. But yeah, she just feels strong. She feels strong. She feels safe to pick early on, because like people will often pick Illinev, so that already gives Hwa-Young value. So yeah, definitely a decently strong unit right now in RTA. Anywhere else, I don't know. I don't care. This is an RTA tier list. But yeah, very good unit, especially on counter set. And then we have Emo Lua. She's just really good. Like, her S3 gives her team a lot of damage, it gives you speed buff, and she can provoke lock people really hard. And she has 100% provoke on her S3, S1. She has Sovereign Ignore ER, she has CR boost to give your team more tempo. Like, she's probably overall the strongest opener and control unit for slower players. And even fast players. Like, she's a very well-rounded opener that anybody can use. Yeah, very good unit. And we have Laya. Laya is Laya. She is the safest damage dealer in the game. She's also the best cleanser, because there's nothing really that can lock down Laya besides really weird 2-turn debuffs. So yeah, she's a damage dealer, she's a cleanser, she's giga tanky. Her only weakness is Illinev and Cleave. So yeah, really good unit. And I mean, she's weak to DDR too, but usually you're gonna pick DDR first if you want to play Laya. But yeah, very strong unit still. And then we have Emil Hayes. Emil Hayes is a complete abomination still. Like, sure, Illinev is really good against him, but there are a lot of games where Illinev is pre-banned, or you just take Illinev yourself. And Emil Hayes, he can either be on counter, or he could be giga tanky with like Proven Valor, and you can't really aggro him. Like, he's just a really strong unit that forces you to kill him first, and a lot of the times you won't be able to kill him. Yeah, super menacing unit still. And again, only real weakness is Illinev and DDR and Luna, but you'll be contesting these units, because again, S tier are the units you'll be picking alongside the S+ tier. Then we have Senya. So despite like Hwa-Young's existence, I still think Senya is very, very strong when Illinab is off the table, because when you pick ML Senya, you pick Senya with units that are squishy. You pick units like Janua and BBK with Senya, and Janua and BBK are typically very good against Hwa-Young. So yeah, I still think despite Hwa-Young's existence, Senya is still good because she enables units that are strong against Hwa-Young. So she's not doomed as a late unit. Still super good, and even if you're not playing like Janua or BBK, you can also play Senya to protect like your solo carry backline unit. Like say you're playing Emo Shu against like someone's playing super tanky, like the Senya will just keep the Shu alive long enough for Shu to kill everything, which is really good. So yeah, Senya pretty decent unit still. And then we have Janua. As long as Illinev is not in the game, Janua is still an absolute beast. He can still get controlled by DDR, but Janua is one of the only units who has enough damage potential to kind of kill stuff like ML Haste, which is really important. But yeah, he's still strong. He's still strong. As long as you're not fighting Illinev with him, he's still very, very strong. And unfortunately, the way the meta is, if your damage dealer isn't giga tanky, or they don't have 30k HP, or they don't have immortality, they are not very good. Like Janua is good because he does enough damage, and the immortal is very important. So yeah, very strong unit, especially because the meta. There's a lot of green units in the meta again because of the little Senya creature that I'll be talking about in a moment. And then we have BBK. I'm not gonna lie, BBK is like the BBK is like the pillar of cleave and aggressive play, because she's one of the only viable DPS in the game, because everything else is either too squishy or doesn't do enough damage. But BBK, she does insane amounts of damage, and she has insane survivability with double immortal. So yeah, very, very important unit, and still insanely strong. Like she's super strong with like the Luna, Frida, like Emo Poly shenanigans. She's just really, really good. Definitely irreplaceable DPS right now, unfortunately. Yeah. Only bad thing is that this unit, unless you're committed to one playstyle, you kind of need two of her. Like if you play with Harsetti available, you need like a slow ER BBK. If you want to play aggressive, you need like a faster BBK with like max damage. I think that's our only drawback, but yeah, very, very insane unit. I don't see her going away for the coming season at all. Like nothing matches BBK's damage, unfortunately. And then we have Frida. Frida is a very, very important unit for more aggressive players, because units like ML Poly and Luna are way better when they can soul burn. And Frida giving them a free soul burn is just huge. It's absolutely huge. Like she's a cleanse, she's a tech buff, she's just really good. There's nothing bad about her. Well yeah, very, very, very important free soul burn. Then we have Albedo. So Albedo is the lone Aureus knight in S tier, because Hwa-Young kind of just dunks on everyone else. Like Hwa-Young will dunk on C Armin, LRK, and A Tywin. So Albedo is now the most reliable mitigation knight that you can pick with protection set and Aureus. But on top of that, she enables young Senya, who is very, very strong. Like the fact that she is green is amazing. And like it's not just her mitigation that's good. Her S3 is so valuable. Like 2-turn defense break and unbuffable. Like if you tag BBK with that, she's as good as dead. Like you can enable a lot of stuff with albedo, and that's really good. So yeah, safest mitigation knight that you can pick currently. And then we have little Senya. It took a little while. It took a little while, but people realized that this unit is completely toxic. So at first, they got us in the first half. They were like, you thought Smallgate was selling an answer to Harseti, but it turns out young Senya is also really good in non-Harseti games. Because like you can slam units like Albedo and Alencia, and just make sure your units actually have speed. Like if your young Senya has like over 200 speed, like she can just function as a regular cleanser in standard play without needing to rely on like Harseti to lower everyone's speed. You know, like her passive does so much damage. Like with Alencia and Albedo, her passive is gonna do like 10k AoE damage. And there's not much you can do to recover from that. But yeah, the toxic draft right now is like DDR to deny DDR, and then you slam green units like Albedo, Senya, and Alencia, and you just go to town on the other person. She's a really good cleanser. She cleanses knockwall automatically, which is kind of insane. And yeah, she's just really strong right now. Like they made a counter to Harseti, but like the counter was so strong that it leaked into like normal gameplay too. So yeah, that's pretty much how it is right now. And that's it for the S tier. So now we have the common situational picks. So Archdemon recently got buffed, and she has a Soul Burn Ignore ER seal on S1 with a guaranteed dual attack with your highest attack unit now, which is absurd. But upon further testing, like originally I thought this unit would be like S plus S tier easily, but upon further testing, this unit actually has a lot of issues. The biggest issue is that you have to pick attack scaling damage dealers with her, so she's not going to be that great with like Laya and stuff. But sorry, the real biggest issue is that she kind of gets dunked on by little Senya, because every young Senya is on immunity, so ADS can't seal her turn 1 unless you pick a stripper, but they're probably just gonna ban your stripper, and then you're gonna proc young Senya and you're screwed. And if you pick 2 strippers, then your team is probably gonna lack too much substance. So yeah, there is a decent amount of counterplay for her, but she is still very strong as a later pick. She's insanely strong in the 4-5 if the other person has if the other person's like lacking cleansers, or they're picking very passive reliant damage dealers and stuff. So yeah, she's still extremely strong as like a late pick debuffer type unit, but you can't pick her early because young Senya will destroy you. This unit is always on immunity. So yeah, Archdemon very strong, but she has glaring weaknesses that make her not S plus material. And then we have Alencia. I'm gonna grade Mort and Alencia together. Like Mort and Alencia are only here because Senya is so powerful. Like these 2 units are mega enabled by Senya, because like you need to pick green units, right? And these are the only DPS that are green right now that are viable. So it's like you pick Albedo, you pick Senya, and then you close your draft with like either one of these. Usually Alencia is really good against people who try to counter DDR. Like for example, in the little Senya draft, you always have DDR, and the other person will try to pick like Schneel and stuff. Like they'll ban Protector Schneel, and then they won't be able to have mitigation in their draft. So then you pick a very high damage Alencia, and you just like go pop and one-shot people. Like Alentia does so much damage with the buff. Like you just go like Leafy Artifact, you go Pen Set, you go 20% damage S2, and then your Alentia is gonna one-shot the Schneel that they picked to counter DDR. Like she is very, very potent. Like the single target damage is crazy, and the defense buff is really, really good too. So yeah, Alentia, very, very strong pick now, but you have to pick Senya with her. Typically, people will slot their Senya in 3 or just pick her super early because they expect her to be picked. But yeah, Alentia good because Senya's good. Same thing for Mort. However, I think Mort is not that good compared to Alentia because the issue with Mort is that he doesn't have the same burst damage as Alentia does. Cause like you need Alentia to kill key targets, but Mort you can't really do much with him. Mort is kind of a I have no green unit left to pick because they took my Alentia kind of pick. So yeah, ideally you don't want to pick Mort. Like I know people are crazy about this unit because he's everywhere in Arena and Guild War, but that's a very different environment than RTA. Mort is not that good in RTA. Unless you're fighting a Miki or something. He's decent, but he's nothing crazy. Unless he counterattacks every single turn and whatever, but yeah, we're not gonna defend on that. Anyway, yeah, Mort is here just because of Senya, and anyway, so we have our trio of light protection set knights, and oh boy. So Armin's been struggling for quite a bit because this unit doesn't do enough. Like she lacks any tempo. Like sure she can protect your team for a turn, but she's kind of lacking these days. Like it's very hard to pick mitigation while balancing like your cleanses against damage dealers. Some people a lot of times they just forego mitigation or they don't lock mitigation on 3. Like Ciaran doesn't really do that much. Like all she does is reduce your damage, and if she's lucky enough to get a turn, like she'll protect you for another turn. But otherwise, not that great right now with all the debuffers and strippers and everything. But she's still a decent mitigation option, just a lot harder to pick. And especially because like Emo Huayang is super popular in RTA, so yeah, that's also an issue. Like she could just bop your Armin before you take a turn. And then we have LRK. LRK is still super strong with Laya to like reduce her cooldowns and everything, but again, this kind of unit, he's gonna get one tasked by Emo Huayang. So yeah, little unreliable to pick. And same thing with A Tywin. Like the Huayang threat makes it really hard to pick these three light knights, unfortunately. So yeah, they're still good, but definitely units you pick later on in the draft. Or like you can only pick them when you have Huayang, unfortunately. And then we have Lilius. She's still a decent aggro enabler, but it's very, very hard to pick her. Like you'll pick her against people playing slow, like you'll pick her against people playing like DDR, Laya and stuff. You'll probably pick her against slow players who are picking Emo Luna if you have Sweet Miracle. But again, you need Sweet Miracle to make her work most of the time. Like she's not really the best option ever. Like sometimes you can pick her late to speed contest knockwall or something. Otherwise, yeah, you won't pick this unit too much. There's not like she's still decent, but there are a lot of better options right now. And we have We have Zio. Zio is still... He's still a thing. It's still important to have Zio geared. Because if the other person is trying to be really aggressive and they don't pre-ban Zio, like for example, you pick Emo Poly and the other person goes Bryceria to race you, like you know that Bryceria is on the CR boost artifact, and then you just pick Zio to knock her back. Yeah, he's good like that. But that's about it. I mean, sometimes the other person will like pre-ban Bellion, and maybe you can go for like a Luna Zio Ludwig cleave or something. But aside from that, yeah, not much. Then we have Hearthsteady. So unfortunately, I know Hearthsteady used to be S+ tier, but she really didn't deserve it because I don't know. I realized too late that the reality is you don't want to play Hearthsteady. You don't want to be the one picking Hearthsteady because she has so many counter picks. And a lot of people will pre-pick units that are good into Hearthsteady. Like LRK, Little Senya. I guess the biggest problem is Little Senya now. But also, people pick Little Senya plus Hearthsteady, and it just makes the game really confusing. Like, the fact that you'd rather fight Hearthsteady than pick Hearthsteady just makes her a lower tier unit than everything else, in my opinion. And I feel like her impact varies a lot. But she's still sometimes the only thing you can pick. There's like, for example, what if someone is forcing like speed units on you and Hearthsteady is available? You just kind of have to pick Hearthsteady. Like, she's good to stop speed players, but that's about it. Like, I never want to be the one picking Hearthsteady. Like, I feel like if I ever lose to Hearthsteady, it's because they like high rolled their bubble maker to stun me 3 times. It's just doesn't feel good. And if a unit doesn't feel good to play, they don't deserve a high rank. So yeah, Hearthsteady is still Hearthsteady, but playing her is a complete headache. Oh yeah, I don't think I can put her anywhere higher than A tier. When we have Knockwall. Knockwall is still the debuffer of choice, still insane with Laya. Although, slight issue with Knockwall is that if you S3 young Senya, she will proc. I think that's Knockwall. That's the biggest issue with picking Knockwall right now, is that young Senya cleanses her. Like, she doesn't stop young Senya from proccing, so a slight issue with Knockwall, but still she's very strong with Laya, but playing her is a little less straightforward. Especially because LRK is less pickable now. Like the super combo last season was Laya, LRK, Knockwall, but now you can't pick LRK. So yeah, she's still good. She's still good later on in the draft to just like lead pick and make people ban her. But that's about it. Then we have 3F Bellion. She's still really strong with DDR. She's super tanky and she does a lot of damage. And she is insanely strong on counter set too. Although only issue is that she's, of course, she's a little weak to Hwayoung, and she gets dumpstered by Little Senya because she has forced AoE. But aside from that, Bellion is still one of the more viable damage dealers in the game. But yeah, she's still good, and she's naturally very anti-aggro because you know she denies souls. She's super tanky, and yeah, still a good unit. But Senya makes her a bit more awkward to play. And we have Schneel. So Schneel is It's very hard for me to rank this unit because I feel like if you pick Schneel well, he can perform. But the issue is, it's very hard to draft him well. I feel like as a counter pick, if you pick Schneel against DDR, you should have a big advantage because of it. But I feel like the DDR side has way too much counterplay. Like, Schneel is weak to Celine, Schneel is weak to young Senya. Like, Schneel is just weak to getting debuffed to death by other debuffers. Like, Schneel has a lot of weaknesses. So, like... But despite that, he's still one of the only ways to deal with DDR. But my biggest issue with him is that he requires a decent amount of skill to make work. So yeah, he's good. He has the potential to be good, it's just hard to make him good. But that doesn't mean he's a bad unit, he's just a high skill unit. But yeah, I will still put him in A tier. Personally, I have a lot of success with this unit. But on the other hand, I also beat almost every single Schneel I fight. So it's a bit hard to judge. But I think he has decent potential and he's worth having gear. Yeah, then we have Dillybet, who was an up-and-coming cleanser last season. And she was really good at reverse cleaving people. However, she did fall off a bit because Dillybet has a lot of issues in that she's not that tanky, and sure, she can cleanse, but she can still be controlled by Noctua and Laya. She gets controlled by Luna. Her matchup versus Politis is not that good. Like, she's good at reverse cleaving people like DDR, but like, she's also weak to ML Haste, she's weak to BVK, and she's weak to Janua, and she's weak to ML Senya. And she's also weak to little Senya too, because like, she's forced to AoE. Like, the fact that she's forced to AoE to cleanse makes her a very unreliable unit. But also, against more aggressive players, Dillybet is still decent. You can still make Dillybet work against aggressive players. Cause like, if you pick Dillybet in a way where pressing S3 and one-shotting someone's team will win you the game, like, go for it. But she does have a whole bunch of weaknesses though. But she's still a decent cleanser in a lot of cases. Just have to be very careful with how you pick her. Cause like, yeah, like, you pick Dillybet, you press S3, you know, you get slapped by Hua Young, you get slapped by Lua's gang, you get slapped back by Emma Haste and Senya, BVK, Janua, Senya. But there are a handful of situations where Dillybet is good still, especially against cleave and aggro players. And then we have Gala. To be honest, Gala ended up being a better unit for Harceti players who built her ER very slow and high damage. Cause like, in like Harceti games, if you aren't able to control the Gala, she's gonna kill you. She's just gonna straight up kill you, so that's a huge issue. Or rather, Gala is very strong, but in a way you wouldn't expect. If you have like a 270 Gala, like, it's okay. But right now, the tank meta is so tanky that Gala... There's a good chance Gala can't really break through a lot of units. Especially Albedo. Like, Gala versus Albedo is a known losing matchup. You know, Gala's still good, but not in the way you'd expect. You know, Celine is a decent unit for when you try to pinch the other person into pressing their buttons. But she is weak to things like MO Haste and BVK. But a lot of times, if people commit too much to like playing like Laya and Lua and stuff, like Celine's a decent unit, but I think Celine has the same issue as Schneel. Where like you think Celine and Schneel, they have very clear units that they counter, but the units that they counter have a lot of room for counterplay against them, and then it turns the matchup into a skill matchup where you need to draft well to make Celine work, and the same thing for Schneel. But that doesn't mean they're bad units. I think Celine's very good. I think it's very healthy that it's like that, but yeah, Celine is the go-to Punisher for non-attack skills. Just don't pick her into Emo Haste, because half of them are on Proof of Valor and they will not die to Celine. But yeah, decent unit, especially against Lua. But that's about it. Then we have Politis. Degen Poly or Politis that's built like super tanky, high ER is decent in the meta. Very decent in the meta at controlling things, because like if you land 1 or 2 crown stuns, like you'll probably just win the game. Like Lua presses her S2, she gets stunned, her team gets stunned, it's just GG. So like Fire Poly, she's okay. She's okay as a debuffer. But that's about it. And like, you know, the blind, the unbuffable is naturally good against units like BBK, because like it stops her from doing damage. So yeah, Fire Poly, decent unit. Then we have Emo Ruana. Emo Ruana is an aggro and cleave staple, but like this unit, you'll see this unit a lot with like Emo Luna and Frida, because she just completely disables the other person, especially if you have Emo Luna. Like the -1 turn, the pushback, the strip, it is just really good. And like, it doesn't even have to be with Emo Luna, like it could be with any opener that strips too. And Emo Ruana, pretty decent potential. Then we have Acades. I honestly despise this unit. I think Acades is awful. I think Soul Weavers in general are awful. But the issue is, she's the only Soul Weaver, she's the only cleanser of her kind. Like her constant CR boost is very important before fighting Luna, because it's very hard to time your cleanses, but if you have a unit that constantly CR boosts, it makes it a little bit easier. But it's not reliable. Ask any turn 2 player how they feel about this unit and what their win rate is. They'll say it's much lower than any other unit. Like mine is awful win rate, it's like in the 50s. But the issue is, there's nothing better to pick. If you play the game with Luna available, and they're going like aggressive Luna with Frida, there's nothing better to pick than Acades, and it's a 50-50 matchup. Which is fine, but she's the best option, I guess. Which makes her good, but I really wish there was a better option. Like, the cycling is good, the cleansing is good, but if only she was a bit better. Then we have Ocean Breeze, Luluka. She's decently strong against stuff like Emo Lua, especially if you pick her with Bellion to deny soul burn. Like this unit, a lot of people started putting a Frida artifact on her to give Bellion a free soul burn, so that you can soul burn your Bellion, and then just like cheese out cleavers and stuff, which is really strong. So yeah, Luluka, Luca is still a decent pick against like non-attack skill units like Lua and Polly. Well, not Polly, but mostly Lua. sorry, mostly Lua. I mean, she's okay. And then we have Emo Shu. Emo Shu is pretty much the only viable injury bruiser in the game. Like nothing ramps up their injury as much as Emo Shu does, and like a lot of the time the game turns into a DPS race. It's like, can you kill Emo Shu before she gets the second S3? And to win this race, people started to build like 30k HP Sweet Miracle shoes, and it's super strong and toxic. It's like, again, I know a lot of people will like clown on this unit, but she's really good against people who aren't prepared to DPS race her properly. But yeah, definitely a decent unit. And I know Alencia is an injury bruiser too, but you don't pick Alencia to injure people, you pick Alencia to murder people with her defense break and tons of damage. Like Alencia and Shu, they are not the same. Alencia does tons of upfront damage, Shu needs time. So yeah, not the same unit. And then we have Arbiter Gojid. If you're playing aggressive, he's a decent DPS choice later on in the draft if your opponent is lacking, you know, if your opponent is lacking things like Emo Haste. But that's about it. There's not much reason to pick RB, to be honest. He's a decent unit, but man, he's just RB. If you need a big damage dealer that's guaranteed to do AoE damage, he's a thing. Nothing special though. Although he's much riskier to pick though because of Archdemon and Hwoyoung, but as a late pick, he still has potential. And then we have Ruel. I despise this unit. I feel like every time I fight this unit, people just pick it to rope me. But I also think she has a decent amount of potential. Because like a lot of aggressive players, they'll pick units and their units will run out of juice before they get to kill your Ruel. And then your Ruel's gonna revive like your Emo Haste or your Bellion or something, and then the revived unit will just like they'll just turn the game. So Ruel's really good for just outlasting the other person. But yeah, decent unit. But I must say, Ruel is probably one of the most like misused units in the game. Like I'll see people slam Ruel first pick for no reason. Definitely not the way she was meant to be played. Then we have Solitaria. Solitaria is only here because she soft counters Flan. And she is honestly the only unit that kinda counters Flan. She is nothing special. She exists as a third pick option to deal with Flan, and she's not that reliable. Cause like if you're getting cleaved by Flan, you're kinda screwed. But she is one of the only options to deal with her. Sorry, she is basically the only option to deal with Flan, unfortunately. But yeah, Solitaria, because of that, she's here. And we have Landy. Okay, before you guys clown on me, this is not traditional Landy. Landy is good when you build her as an Aureus Knight. Aureus Knight Emo Landy is good against cleavers who pick a lot of raw damage, and is good for buff stacking. Cause like she gives you shield, she gives you anti-crit, and if you have immunity on your units, then you are immune to double strips like DDR. Cause like if you have protection set Candy versus DDR, he's gonna strip your shield plus anti-crit, but he doesn't strip your immunity, so that means you don't get debuffed. So yeah, Aureus Landy, really good for that. But normal candy, not so good. Then we have Euphine. Once again, this unit is an Aureus Knight. Unfortunately. Like, she's an Aureus Protection Knight, and you use her passive to troll cleavers. Because it's not really worth building her as a bruiser anymore, because she just doesn't work well in the meta, unfortunately. But she does have use to troll cleavers and aggressive players as an Aureus Knight. That is worth something. And then we have Moon Bunny. Moon Bunny is okay as a unit. Like, she can counter some units like DDR, kind of. She counters Knockball to some degree. But she is very, very lackluster. Like, sometimes she's okay against Knockball, sometimes she's okay against DDR. But you have to be very aggressive with her to like make use of her attack buff and CR boost. Although Moon Bunny plus an immunity buffer is pretty decent against DDR. Like, I used to pick Moon Bunny LRK a lot last season, but I feel like it's changed quite a bit and like neither are that good. But it's still good to have her. And she's also really decent against cleavers who pick Veronica as their only extra attack, so you can pick Moon Bunny to deny this defense break, which is pretty good too. I did see a handful of Proof of Valor Bunny Doms to survive BBK cleave last season. It's definitely a thing if you want. Oh yeah, and then we have Amiki. Amiki is actually pretty decent anti-cleave. Like, she doesn't care about most debuffs. Like, she can be picked into Luna cleave, that's pretty big. If she randomly counterattacks, the cleaver is probably gonna die. Actually a pretty decent unit, and sometimes in standard play if the other person doesn't pick tanky enough, like Amiki is just gonna delete their team. But yeah, decently threatening unit. Mostly anti-cleave and anti-aggro though. Then we have Arya. Sometimes people will pick Janua and like a bunch of single target damage dealers, and then Arya is good. Like, Arya is good against Janua, but that's about it. If you need a blue bruiser, they have Janua, boom, Arya. Not much else to say. Milim's actually pretty decent because like as a turn 2 player, you're often playing with debuffs. Like, you're playing DDR a lot, you're gonna play Knockball a lot, you're gonna play Laya a lot, and people will inevitably slam Celine into you. And if you pick a fast Milim and just like trade 1-for-1 with the Celine and let your units slam their buttons, you're probably gonna win the game. So yeah, Milim's pretty good for that. I tried her as a bruiser too, to like deal with little Senya. It didn't go so well, but she is decent against Celine at least. So yeah, that's all we have for the A tier, and now we have the A- tier. Oh boy. Sage Vivian. Sure, she's immune to debuffs, but the stacking mechanic is really bad. And like, it's so easy to whittle away her stacks, and she's weak to like bonus damage and stuff too, and she can also just die to raw damage. Like, Sage Vivian is just not that good, and she also gets one-shot by Hwoyoung, which is not great either. Like, she gets dunked on by so many things. Gets dunked on by Hwoyoung, Emma Poly. She gets dunked on by a whole lot of units. Like, very rarely will Sage Vivian work, but the fact that she's still, you know, she can't be debuffed. That's a big thing still. But that's about it. She's a DPS that can't be debuffed for a short period of time. So if a unit like that will win you the game, like, sure, she's decent for that, but that's about it. Blue Lua. There's honestly no reason to pick this unit anymore. Like, she was unironically replaced by Emo Lua as a control unit for slower players. Like, Emo Lua has the speed buff, Emo Lua has her bonus damage, Emo Lua doesn't have the reset, but Emo Lua has a strip that doesn't get countered by protections at immunity, and she just controls people for one turn, so like, screw the cooldown reset, right? Like, she still has decent control potential, but it just kind of pales in comparison to Emo Lua. I wouldn't say she's not that good. But like, sometimes she can control a team to death if you have Laya, but yeah, not often. No, not as good as she used to be. And we have Wukong. Wukong is very rarely good. Like, sometimes when the other person has Laya, sometimes when the other person has like Emo Haste. When the other person has like very low damage, like Wukong is decent. He's not bad with C. Lilius. He has potential to one-shot some things, but he's kind of a rare pick. He has potential, but it's very hard to actually use him. Then we have Lionheart. Lionheart, this unit is honestly hard to say. Cause like sometimes Lionheart can just run someone over, but oftentimes the other person will be too tanky or they just kill Lionheart. Like, very rarely is she good. But she has potential. For example, what if the other person picks like Archdemon and then your Lionheart Senya has immunity and you just kind of beat them up turn 1 because you had immunity, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, Lionheart is very unreliable right now. Elvira. This unit, if someone has like solo cleanser Dilibet, then Elvira is a pretty good late pick if you have other debuffers to combo her with. But otherwise, she doesn't have much use. Like, she was a failure during Yuffie and Landy meta. She's a blue unit, so she's not even that good against Senya. Like, she has like 1 or 2 use cases, and that's to like deny Dilibet, who also isn't that popular right now. Yeah, Elvira, she's a thing, but very rare. Justina's okay in her city games, but also at the same time, I feel like Little Senya just kind of replaced her. Like, Justina is okay to pick against and with her city in like slower play, because like, you know, her healing is decent, like the CR boost is decent, but honestly, not much reason to have her built because of Little Senya. And Little Senya is just mostly just better than her. Then Emerald Ball. Sometimes Emerald Ball is good against a cleaver. Like, against Zeo cleavers, you could build him Giga High ER to resist the Zeo. Against like TML cleavers, you could build him very fast to sleep TML's team. But if they have immunity, you're gonna die. Like, he's decent anti-cleave, but also there's a lot of ways for him to get screwed. Like, what if the Zeo has like 300 effectiveness? What if like TML's team stacked immunity so you can't strip anything? Like, Emerald Ball, yeah, Emerald Ball will win you the game sometimes, but he can also be very useless a lot of the time too. But yeah, he can be good, but not too often. And we have F10. Her EE strips an extra buff, which means she's not countered by protection set, which is nice. So you can pick her like late pick as like a debuffer control unit, but very hard for her to actually do something considering like there are good cleansers like Laya and Dillybet. But like maybe the other person won't pick either of them, and it'll make F10E a decent unit. But that'll rarely be the case because like if they don't have Laya, they probably have young Senya, and like you don't want to pick F10E into green units. But she can be good though. She does have some potential, but not much. Rimuru is okay against Gala. Like, I think the only reason I have Rimuru here is because he's one of the only units that you can pick against Gala. But that's about it. He doesn't. There's not much point of him otherwise. Like maybe you can use him to like counter Archdemon or counter Hwayoung, if anything. But yeah, no, not much other reason to actually build and use him. We have Karina. Karina is really good against the cleavers who pick a bunch of fire units and they don't have much control. Like if you see Eligos a lot, you know, Karina is pretty good against him. Like Karina will be pretty good against Eligos, Veronica, etc. But like not against like Luna and stuff. But also you also need Rocket Punch. But she's okay. Nothing special though. Emma Bologna. To be honest, there's almost no use for this unit. Cause like there's people don't play Candy as like a damage dealer anymore. But you know, maybe there will be that one guy who late picks Candy as like his as one of his 4/5, and then you can slam Elmo Bologna as your 5th pick, and then it gets banned. But that's about it. There's honestly no other reason to pick this unit. Yeah, that's literally the only reason you would pick this unit. I mean, probably not even worth having geared because the Elmo Bologna is like contesting speed with Flan too. So honestly, I almost want to move her down a tier, but I feel like that's a little disrespectful. She exists. You'll probably pick her 1 out of 100 games, but she exists. We have Elena. Elena is a decent unit in that Elena can stop Ran and Bryceria from pressing their S3. And if you can win the game from that, then she's a good pick. But she's also very skill based, and a lot of people would just play around Elena's existence. So she can be good, but it's a little hard to make her good. I feel like you need to drop pretty low too. And we have Ed. Honestly, Ed's pretty much only purpose is to be built full damage, so his S2 can one-shot cleave units. That's the only purpose he has. And like people rarely play that kind of cleave anymore. And if they do, they kind of just play around the Ed. Like, he's a thing if like, you know, he can stop the other person with his S2, but it's not very rare. Or sorry, it's not very common. Then we have Fire Rabi. Honestly, I want to put this unit in like the lowest tier possible, but the fire bruisers in this game are donkey. Like, Fire Flan is the best fire unit by a mile, but she's always banned, so then your options for fire units are like non-existent. I will put Fire Ravi in this tier because sometimes you just need a Fire Bruiser. And Fire Ravi is the only Fire Bruiser that's actually, you know, a bruiser. So she's okay. Really nothing special though. She's decent with MO Poly because of the dual attacks, but with anything else, she's really bad because she just kind of sits there and watches your team die, and then like she probably doesn't even do anything after they die. So yeah, she's here because she's a Fire Bruiser, and this game is very lacking in them. And we have Leica. Leica, she's very rarely good. I think I had like 3,000 games last season, and I picked Leica 30 times with like 80% win rate. And the only time I picked Leica was when I had Ilinav, and they picked DDR without Harsetti, and I picked Leica to one-shot the DDR. Because her damage potential is like up to 25,000 damage roughly. So there wasn't many things she could reliably kill. Like DDR was pretty much guaranteed kill all the time, but like she can't kill stuff like Shu because she might have like improved valor. Yeah, Leica is still pickable, but just very rare because things are getting too tanky for her. And the same thing with strays. Like sometimes someone will pick so slow and so many useless units that you can just like slam strays into them and they will die. But like it's extremely rare. And we have MO Sharon. MO Sharon is another failure of a unit, but I think she's much worse than Chenille. Like MO Sharon is a DDR counter if you can capitalize on her defense break and just like cleave the DDR, but that's very rare. Like it's honestly extremely rare for that to happen. And like I don't even want to talk about why she's bad. Like she doesn't prevent DDR's venom. Like sure she'll prevent the sleep, but she doesn't prevent the venom. So if you don't straight up kill DDR with the defense break, you're kind of just dead. No, yeah, Sharon not so good. Like sure she counters stuns in general, sure she counters Mort, but like those units aren't very like stuns and sleeps. They're not prominent besides DDR, but DDR is just gonna not press his S3, and then your Sharon is your Sharon's kind of a bum. But yeah, Sharon, I can't rank her too highly because I feel like she's only decent in aggro. And we have Ada. Ada is sometimes good as like an anti-aggro kind of unit. Like she can reverse debuff people. She can interrupt people if you put her on Guide to a Decision and Immunity. Cause like imagine Rand presses S3 and Ada cuts his team. But like that situation is a little rare these days. Like Ada's okay as a reverse debuffer unit, but that's about it. Like she's very hard to use though. I don't think it's worth it for most people to have her geared. Like, she's very situational, and she's very prone to just missing her debuffs. Like she has a strip, she has a pushback, she has 2 debuffs. That's 15% checks potentially. She's just a little too unreliable for most people. And then we have Taeyu. Sometimes Taeyu is good. Most of the time he's garbage. Like he's just too vulnerable. And you have to like forcibly proc his S2, and or else he's just really useless. Like sure, he can kind of proc against Elena. He can kind of proc against like Emma Polly, I guess, but he's mostly useless. Very, very, very unreliable unit, but sometimes he can pop off. It's very rare though, very rare. You know, Stenny. I mean, if you ever need like a stealth unit that holds book for Emo Lure or something, Stenny is a thing. Very rare, but Stenny is a thing for that kind of draft. Emo Lua is very strong, and having a book for her is also very strong. But Stenny, very underwhelming unit. Winter is okay if like if the other person's only cleanser is Laya, and then you use Winter to just control them along with Emo Lure or something, but that's about it. Yeah, nothing special. She got screwed over by immunity buff too. Yeah, nothing crazy at all. We have Rowana. People don't really pick units that Rowana is like really good against anymore. Like, I don't know, what if someone like locks in Solitaria on 3 and like you pick Rowana to like out-sustain them? Like that's kind of where Rowana is okay, I guess. But otherwise, not much point picking her. Yeah, Ilinav is a decent fire bruiser in Harseti games. Like, there are a lot of green units in the meta right now that she is kind of okay against. But the issue with Ilinav is that Ilinav can't really exist outside of Harseti games because she just doesn't do enough damage without being built very slow. So I don't think she's too viable, honestly. And even then, she's kind of iffy, but she's one of the only other injury options, I guess. But yeah, biggest issue, she's not that good unless with Harseti. Yeah, she's a thing. She's a thing. Then we have AOL. AOL is really good against units like Emo Haste and LRK. And she's okay against cleansers if you build her slow, because like what if Laya goes first and then like they can't cleanse because like you have your AOL threat. So yeah, she's okay as a debuffer, but usually you only see AOL in Harseti games now, because like AOL is pretty much guaranteed to proc with Harseti. Hand guy, pretty much only see this unit in Harseti games, because like the Warhorn cutting to fix your tuning is pretty good. Although there is argument that a faster hand guy might be useful in non-Harseti games now to cleanse Lua, but again, it's pretty iffy. Yeah, he has a lot of counters. Like, he's weak to knockball, he's weak to cooldown resets. Like, he's a very iffy unit still, but he's definitely it's definitely worth having a cleanser like him geared if you're not pre-building Harseti. And then we have Benny Maru. This unit, I don't know. I want to call this unit complete trash because he has a lot of counterplay and young Senya can just tank him out. But there are some situations where Benny Maru can actually perform. It's rare, but there are situations where Benny Maru can perform against young Senya, but I think people are just pretty bad at drafting in general, so you don't really see it. But like Benny Maru, like, he can do really well if your draft is decent against young Senya. But very, very hard to make him work. but he's a thing. He has counterplay, but he has decent potential too. But yeah, anyway, that's about it for this tier list. I won't be going over why these characters are bad because there's too many of them. I just don't build these characters basically. Like they're either unreliable or they don't do enough. So yeah, that's about it for this tier list. Thank you for watching. I hope it was helpful and see you guys next time.